Genesis chapter 6, verse 1. And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. And Jehovah said, My spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh. Yet his days shall be 120 years. The 120-year period was the 120 years prior to the flood. Since we know when the flood began in 4990 BC, if we just go back 120 years, we come to the year 5110 BC, and that's the time when Noah was 480 years old. And God, the all-knowing God, gave the timeline, who knows the end from the beginning and has made statements in his word that he sealed up information till the time of the end and so forth. The complete fullness of time for mankind is 12,000 years. But the number 12,000 turns out to be 13,000 years of history. In Revelation chapter 20, verse 1, concerning the binding of Satan, it says, And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit, and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years, and cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years shall be fulfilled, and after that he must be loosed a little season. So here you see how God is breaking up the history of the world. 11,000 years until Christ, and Christ accomplishes his purpose of demonstrating the things he did from the foundation of the world when he goes to the cross. And at the cross, Satan is bound for 1,000 years. 11,000 plus 1,000 equals 12,000. And we read in verse 7 of Revelation 20, And when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison. So in one sense, Satan should have been loosed after 12,000 years of history. Except the 1,000-year figure is a spiritual figure to represent the completeness of his binding. And so the 1,000 years, in actuality, turned out to be 1,955 years. And notice how it worked out in the year 1988, which identifies with 12,000 years exactly, 11,000 years Old Testament until Christ, 1,000 years binding, and 12,000 years, the time expires, Satan is loosed. But it's actually the 13,000th year verse history. That's another reason why that year, 13,000 to the very year, is so significant, so important, because it should be 12,000, but turns out to be 13,000 years of history. So when God says, Yet his days shall be 120 years, and 120 is 10 times 12, 12,000 is 10 times 10 times 10 times 12, it's the same numbers except multiples of 10 in one case. Same emphasis, 10 completeness, 12 fullness. The complete fullness of time for mankind, 12,000 years. But again, it works out to actually 13,000 years. You know, the Bible tells us in Deuteronomy 32. And it's interesting because Deuteronomy 32 is part of Moses' last address to the people of Israel. And if you go back to Deuteronomy 31, it says in verse 1, And Moses went and spake these words unto all Israel. And he said unto them, I am 120 years old this day. I can no more go out and come in. Also Jehovah has said unto me, Thou shalt not go over this Jordan. So Moses is 120 years old that day. And then he will address Israel over the next several chapters. And that's our timeline, isn't it, in Genesis 6? Yet his days will be 120. And when Moses is 120 years old, it says in Deuteronomy 32, verse 8, and this would be God revealing this information through Moses, When the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel. Notice how it goes back to the separation of the sons of Adam. Cain and Abel were sons of Adam that God separated. And there was a line of Cain, those that wandered, that were separated from God because of their sin. And there was a line of Abel that turned into Seth that was counted for the true line of believers. And so God says he set the bounds of the people. The bound is the limitation. You know, like the oceans have bounds. They can go to a point but no farther. And so is it with mankind. God has established a boundary. He has set the bounds of the people, or the sons of Adam, which would be mankind, to a certain point. But he set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel. And there were how many children of Israel, or how many tribes? Well, remember, Israel is Jacob, and he had 12 sons, didn't he? Who turned into the tribes of Israel. And so 12 tribes, just like the number 120, the emphasis is on the number 12 fullness. The number for mankind, the history of the world should expire, and the allotted time should come to an end after 12,000 years of history, according to the number of the tribes of the children of Israel. And yet there were 12 tribes. But remember, God blessed Joseph when he was in Egypt. And Joseph had 2 sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. And God gave Joseph an extra portion and blessed him that way, so that Joseph became 2 tribes. And therefore, the 12 tribes were in actuality 13 tribes. We have the same pattern, the same idea. And it actually works that way with the apostles. In the New Testament, there were 12 apostles, and then Judas went and hanged himself, and they chose another apostle by lot, Matthias. And then later, though, God selected the apostle Paul. We constantly call him the apostle Paul. And he would say the least of the apostles, but nonetheless an apostle. He was the 13th apostle. 12 apostles, yet 13. 12 tribes of Israel, yet 13. 12,000 years of history for the world, yet 13,000 years. And so the 120-year reference points to the complete fullness of time for mankind, which will go to the point of 13,000 years of history, to the point of Satan's loosing, which is the Great Tribulation and the time that begins the end phase, the end stage for the history of the world. And that's all in view here with this statement, yet his days shall be 120 years.